Urgent Steelers fan! Look at what just happened! Nobody saw this coming, huh? But first, make sure to subscribe to the channel because we bring you daily videos with the latest your team news, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you don't miss anything. Steelers urged to consider trading fourth-round pick for starting QB in AFC South. The Pittsburgh Steelers don't have a great deal of time before they will need to either sign Aaron Rodgers or move on to other options at quarterback. It is possible. Rodgers is holding off on making a decision after the Steelers offered him a contract several weeks ago to see how the NFL draft shakes out, and specifically what that means for Pittsburgh's QB room. As of now, only Mason Rudolph and Skylar Thompson occupy positions on the team's depth chart. The Steelers own the number 21 pick, and odds makers predict them as among the most likely teams to select a QB at some point during the proceedings. It is unclear if Rodgers is concerned by the possibility that a player such as Shedeur Sanders of Colorado, who could feasibly be ready to start at some point during his rookie campaign, might fall to the Steelers and disrupt what could be the last season of Rodgers' career. Should the draft bring about a development that turns Rodgers completely off the idea of joining Pittsburgh, or should the four-time MVP simply decide to retire or pursue an opportunity with another franchise? The Steelers theoretically have the option to trade for another competent starter to at least add depth and optionality to the QB room. Christopher Knox of Bleacher Report authored a trade proposal on Friday, April 18th, in which Pittsburgh sends the Tennessee Titans a fourth-round pick in exchange for QB Will Levis and a fifth-round selection. Levis' skill set could mesh with offensive coordinator Arthur Smith, who found success with dual-threat quarterback Justin Fields early last season, Knox wrote. Levis isn't nearly as dynamic of a runner as Fields is, but he can scramble well enough to keep defenses honest. His arm strength would also allow Pittsburgh to stretch the field with receivers George Pickens and DK Metcalf. Levis has started 21 games across 2 seasons after the Titans selected him in the second round of the 2023 draft, number 33 overall. He has thrown for 3,900 yards, 21 touchdowns, and 16 interceptions during his time in the NFL, and has 2 years remaining on his $9.5 million rookie contract. Levis will play next season at 26 years old. Pausing this news just to say that if you want YouTube to keep recommending the latest, the black and gold news to you, it's very important that you leave a like on this video. Thanks. Now let's get back to the news. Aaron Rodgers' praise for Steelers makes lack of decision more confusing. What is holding back a seemingly perfect union? Aaron Rodgers isn't shy about speaking his mind. On Tuesday morning, he gave NFL fans and insiders plenty to dissect during his appearance on the Pat McAfee Show. Among the key takeaways was a clear acknowledgement of his recent visits and conversations with several NFL teams, including the Pittsburgh Steelers. In March, the Steelers hosted Rodgers for a reported 6-hour meeting, hoping to clarify his intentions and possibly solidify a deal to make the veteran quarterback their starter for the 2025 season. Despite the length and depth of the visit, no agreement has been reached. Less than a week before the NFL draft, the lack of progress raises concerns. Rodgers stated that money is not the deciding factor in his return. "I told everyone one of the teams I talked to it isn't about the money," Rodgers said during the interview. "He'll play for $10 million. It was a jaw-dropping statement, not because of the number, but because of the message he's only coming back on his terms. Those terms extend far beyond the paycheck." Rodgers was also generous in his praise of the Steelers organization. He highlighted his admiration for head coach Mike Tomlin, stating, "Obviously, I went out to Pittsburgh and I have a lot of respect for Mike Tomlin." He followed that up with kind words for new offensive coordinator Arthur Smith, adding, "I'm a big fan of Arthur. Smith and I like what he's all about." Aaron Rodgers is not satisfied with the current state of the Pittsburgh Steelers, yet for all the kind words, respect, and alleged willingness to play for pennies, the most glaring detail remains. Rodgers is still not a Steeler, and that could be the clearest signal yet that Pittsburgh is not his final destination. The hesitation, whether on Rodgers' side or the Steelers, speaks volumes. The Steelers, desperate for quarterback stability, would jump at the opportunity to pair their veteran roster with a 4-time MVP. But Rodgers comes with complexities, health concerns, age, off-field interests, and an uncertain timeline for commitment. With the 2025 NFL Draft just days away, the Steelers can no longer afford to live in limbo. They've shown heavy interest in prospects like Shedeur Sanders, Jackson Dart, and Kyle McCord, all of whom could be available depending on how the board falls. The need to secure a future quarterback has become more urgent than ever. Rodgers may not be demanding big money, but his indecision is costing Pittsburgh valuable time. The Steelers need clarity and commitment. Right now, Aaron Rodgers doesn't seem ready to offer either. While the connection between Rodgers and the Steelers was intriguing, all signs point to Pittsburgh turning the page and preparing to draft their future, not rent it. ESPN names Jaylen, Milro, big need, Shedeur Sanders, best value for Steelers in. First round, the Pittsburgh Steelers still need a quarterback. About a week away from the NFL draft, the first round is looking like an increasingly likely spot for them to find one. Shedeur Sanders remains an option, although it's uncertain whether he'd slide to the Steelers at the 21st overall pick or not. Jaylen Milro is more of a surprising option, but he is attending the first round of the draft in Green Bay. On Friday, Matt Miller and Jordan Reed published an article with ESPN in which they listed the biggest need and best value for each team in the first round. For Pittsburgh, Miller pegged Milro as a player who could fill a big need in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has two quarterbacks right now, Mason Rudolph and Skylar Thompson. Miller wrote, "Milro is raw, but he brings rare running ability to the position and can rip a beautiful deep ball." Jaylen Milro definitely is raw. He had some problems as a passer and threw several head-scratching interceptions during the 2024 season. With that said, he has arguably the highest ceiling of any QB prospect in this year's class. Most of the reason for that is his ability as a runner. His athleticism is extremely impressive for the position, and it's a layer to his game that could work well in Arthur Smith's offense. Smith loves a QB who can use his legs, and if Milro was to see any action in his rookie year, the offense would likely mirror what we saw with Justin Fields at the beginning of the 2024 season. He'll need to develop further to be worth the 21st overall pick, though. If Milro can put everything together as a passer, he could have a great career. Milro will most likely be taken near the second round, where the Steelers unfortunately don't have a pick. If he's still available there and Pittsburgh doesn't select a QB in round 1, he could be an option to trade up and get. Reed, on the other hand, thinks Sanders is the best value the Steelers could get at number 21. The Steelers finally get their young quarterback and receive tremendous value too, Reed wrote. Sanders just cracks the top 20 on my board as a poised and accurate passer who's a true distributor. As we inch closer to the draft, Sanders' stock seems to be falling more and more. That's a good thing for Pittsburgh, though. If the Steelers don't take a defensive tackle in the first round, quarterback feels like the next choice. Getting Sanders at number 21 is as good as they can do in that regard. Sanders took a visit with the Steelers last week. Mike Tomlin is also said to be a fan of the young quarterback. If he's still available, he could finally offer an answer for the future of the QB position in Pittsburgh. Steelers axe impressive first-round candidates from NFL draft radar. The Steelers may regret not considering these talented prospects. With the 2025 NFL draft on the horizon and pre-draft visits in the books, we have a great feel for who the Pittsburgh Steelers will be interested in selecting in the first round. Historic trends under Mike Tomlin suggest this team will only select players they have met with at least once throughout the pre-draft process, with top 30 visits and pro day dinner meetings holding the most weight. Sadly, this means we can cross a cluster of talented players off the list who will not be in contention to be the 21st overall pick in the class. These players are worthy of being selected when Pittsburgh is on the clock, and some even come at major positional needs, but unless the Steelers are willing to break draft trends and select a player they didn't show interest in during the pre-draft process, this isn't happening. Here are 5 talented NFL draft prospects Pittsburgh will not consider drafting in round 1. The Pittsburgh Steelers didn't show enough interest to take these talented NFL draft prospects in round 1. Luther Burden 3, WR Missouri. I've got my questions about Luther Burden 3rd, like everyone else. But it's remarkable how far this uber-athletic wide receiver prospect has slipped down the consensus board. Burden can play in the slot or on the outside and offers elite yards after catch ability. While the Steelers traded for DK Metcalf early in the offseason, George Pickens and Calvin Austin III are entering the final year of their rookie contracts, and Pickens is essentially a one-year rental at this point. Burden would undoubtedly aid an offense that averaged 195, 3 passing yards per game, 26th in the NFL, and ranked 20th in points per game. Unfortunately, head coach Mike Tomlin and general manager Omar Khan never expressed an ounce of interest in burden during the 2025 offseason, and you can officially scratch him off your list as a potential Steelers candidate in the 2025 NFL Draft. Walter Nolen, DL Ole Miss. This one is going to anger a lot of fans. Pittsburgh has glaring needs along the interior defensive line, and Walter Nolen, pound for pound, might be the most talented interior defensive lineman in the class. Nolen doesn't have the ideal size metrics the Steelers typically look for: 6'3", 34, 296 pounds, 32, 12 arms, but it doesn't seem to matter. When you put on the tape, Nolen is remarkably stout at the point of attack and possesses the ability to take on double teams while still finding a way to win the rep. The Ole Miss product comes with some character concerns, and perhaps this is the reason the Steelers shied away from meeting with him during the pre-draft process, but he looks like Jaylen Carter on film, and look how well that has worked out for the Eagles. Nolen would have skyrocketed the floor and ceiling of Pittsburgh's defensive line in 2025, but there has been no interest on the part of the Steelers, and he won't be in contention with the 21st overall pick. Will Johnson, CB Michigan, because of his past reputation and the premium on the cornerback position in the NFL, Will Johnson is unlikely to be available when the Pittsburgh Steelers are on the clock. In 2023, Johnson was expected to be a top 5 pick in the 2025 NFL Draft when projecting forward, but injuries claimed most of his 2024 season. During the pre-draft process, Johnson's stock dipped a bit as his arm length came in much shorter than expected, 30.18 at the NFL Combine, and he didn't clear up concerns about his time speed as he elected not to run the 40-yard dash at his pre-draft workout. All it takes is for a few cornerback-needy teams to pass on him to slide to Pittsburgh, but because they did limited homework on Johnson this offseason, he won't be considered in round 1. Colston Loveland, TE, Michigan. I know that most fans will brush off Colston Loveland in an instant. The Pittsburgh Steelers have a quality tight end duo with Pat Freiermuth and Darnell Washington, and this position is one of the least of their worries. But if the Steelers were thinking outside the box, they could have seen how Loveland could have been a lethal weapon for their lackluster offense. At 65'34" and 248 pounds, Loveland can run routes and create separation like a wide receiver, while his massive catch radius and huge hands allow him to win consistently at the catch point. The Michigan tight end has tremendous film and is a top 10 player in the class, for my money. There's only a small chance he falls to pick 21, but this is a tremendous offensive weapon who just turned 21 years old, and the Steelers just need to focus on drafting the best players. Kenneth Grant, DT, Michigan. This will be a throat punch to many Steelers fans, but Kenneth Grant doesn't appear to be in contention for the 21st overall pick in the draft. I would like to put an asterisk next to this name, as Pittsburgh's brass did reportedly meet with Grant before skipping out on Michigan's pro day to go meet with quarterback Aaron Rodgers. For a team that surrendered 299 rushing yards in the playoff loss to the Baltimore Ravens, what better way to fix the run defense than to add a true nose tackle who has the potential to be a 3-down player in the NFL? Grant is the type of run-plugging player this team has been missing since the retirement of Casey Hampton, and while the Steelers have shown a faint amount of interest in him, most would have expected to use one of their 30 visits to bring him into the facility. If Pittsburgh was willing to use 9 pre-draft visits on running backs and not a single one on Kenneth Grant, we have to question how serious they are about drafting him. And now, Steelers fan, I want to hear from you. What's your opinion on this? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I don't know if you know this, but your opinion matters a lot for the black and gold. I'll be back any moment with more Steeler Nation news. Here we go, Steelers. Here we go.